We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. From wherever you are in the wonderful cosmos today, we want to welcome you and thank you so much for tuning in to today's wonderful episode. Now, I'm joined by my wonderful friend, Krasi Attasio, ancient astrologer. Krasi, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Leah. Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
So what we're going to talk about today and why it's so important is people want to know how they can create more success and love and flow in their life. And often they don't have the tools to do that. That's what Master Your Life is about, the insight, intelligence, and inspiration to be able to live a life that is more in flow and more satisfying and more successful. So Krasi and I are going to talk today about sun, moon, and ascendant sign astrology, because that's really popular, but even though it's really popular, it might not actually lead you to the answers that you're looking for from the stars. So Krasi, let's wade right into it. Let's talk about sun, moon, and rising sign astrology and why it's so popular, but why it might actually be something that's a bit deceptive or confusing.
Yes. Thank you, Leah. Yes, this is very interesting and very important and very ancient. And we indeed need to look at the most ancient zodiac and astrological system, which comes from the ancient Babylon, like we spoke last time. We will, of course, look at the roots of astrology. And this is, of course, the ancient Babylonian, the Hermetic astrology. And this thing, like sun astrology, is something very contemporary, very modern, could be valid to some degree, but doesn't really give complete and full information on your nature, if you want, on your horoscope, like they want to imply. It's like with the sun sign, the contemporary astrology is trying to convince you that this is the focus, that this is what your horoscope is about, or that this is what your life is about, the sun sign astrology, which is in a way either deceptive or maybe misleading. Because, let me go straight to the point, the ancient cultures were used very much for their predictive purposes, the lunar calendar, the moon calendar, but how? Simply in a very natural way, observational, very simply, just very simple. Let's look, for example, at the other deception, what they call new moon. What is new moon? How can you call new moon something that literally, practically on the sky is invisible moon? When the moon and the sun make exact conjunction, we do not see the moon anymore because the moon is hidden. It is burned by the rays of the sun. And they call this new moon. Totally no logic in this. You cannot say new moon to something that is no, there is no moon. You can say no moon, but not new moon. This is deception number one. The new moon, literally and correctly, is when you see the first lunar crescent. When you see it, which would say that the moon already leaves the conjunction, leaves the degree when it has met the sun. So then we can have indeed the new moon. From there, the lunar month starts. From there, the life starts, the beginning starts. But let's go even further backwards in Babylon. In Babylon, you had something called 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 Festival. What was this? The most sacred, precious, wonderful day for celebration. This was the 𝑸��𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 Festival. Why it was so sacred and so important? It was again about this moon. the appearance of the first lunar crescent. Before, you had different ways for the Sumerians and for Babylonians. Okay, take the Babylonian version. After the sun enters the point, the sign where we have the spring equinox, then we wait for the appearance of the first lunar crescent. And this is describing not only the first lunar month of the year, which is the first Nisan or Nisanu, but this describes the whole year for sure. So this is the 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 festival, marked by the moon, but not the new moon or the no moon. It is marked by the...
So how many of those 𝑸��𝒂𝒃 festivals would there be in a year?
2. You have one, which is when the sun enters the point of the vernal equinox. For our era, astronomically, this is still Pisces. So the sun enters Pisces. Then you wait for the moon to appear, and they celebrate the 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃 14 days of amazing celebration. Maybe I can tell you about this. It's very interesting. Then 6 months later, these first 6 months, even the whole year, but because what is the most important Hermetic principle? It is so that every beginning describes the whole cycle. The beginning of a cycle describes the complete cycle. So what they did, they wait for the first moon to appear, and the astrologer priest, because the astrologers were priests, always would serve the king. They would have this ziggurat. It is like in the temple of the king. In the middle, they would have these towers, not towers, where they would watch the sky. Everything would on this moon day would matter. The neighbor that would come, the warrior that would enter the temple of the king, if there is a rain, if there is a wind, if there is a dog barking, everything is part of this predictive day. Everything matters. Everything is ominous. Everything is important. So they would climb this ziggurat and they would watch the sky and predict on the new moon of the 1st of Nisan. 6 months after, they would celebrate the second 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃 festival, which is when the sun enters the point of the autumn solstice. And then you have again the first lunar crescent. Again, the same is repeated. They would watch the sky and predict the next 6 months and so on. So the year becomes with the new moon. The month becomes with the new moon. Everything is the moon. There is no life without moon. We come here ruled and guided by the moon. We depart from this world guided by the moon. Yes, the sun is so important because the moon and the sun both, they actually rule your body. They are everything. They are our. But the sun is different because the moon is our body, the moon is our mind, the moon is our feelings, intuition. But the sun is the consciousness, is our growth. It is the connection with God. It is the consciousness, the enlightenment. It is what we want to achieve. It is very different. And if we limit ourselves to sun astrology, this is given by the dark priests to change the center and the focus of where you need to start from. We do not have to ignore the sun astrology, but we have to start with the moon astrology.
Yes, I was so surprised, so shocked and surprised and amazed because I forever, I'm sure like 99.9% of people was reading their sun sign astrology in the local newspaper or as you're scrolling through things, either on Facebook or, on the internet. And you go, oh, like I'm a Pisces and this is what that all means by my sun sign. But when I found out that there's more to this than meets the eye, as a result of a bunch of other investigation over the past 10 years or so, I got a lot more interested in actually astronomy and astrology because I thought, again, it's like there's stuff that's hidden from us that in order to master our lives, I think we need to know. And so it came as a great surprise to me and joy that I'm not just this sun sign, because I kept going, why am I, like, if anyone knows anything about Pisces, it's like all this 12th house, wishy-washy, whatever, just stuff that I thought I'm not really like that in my life. So I got embarrassed and didn't want to tell anybody about what they might be able to expect from me because I'm a Pisces. I'm just like, okay, so I'm not. I was like, oh, okay, this is good and important to know, because then you start, even by just what you think you are, you start to behave that way. Like, this is the observer effect, right? So very much psychologically, it can be quite either enriching or damaging, or maybe a little bit of both. But when you understand that there's more to you than just the sun sign, which is, like you say, contemporary. It's this contemporary, easy, sort of spoon-fed, easy to swallow it, like pablum for babies, but it doesn't actually help nourish you after you get through the baby phase of astrology. And so as we grow in our understanding and knowing and going, wow, it's like these things are really powerful tools to be able to live a more balanced life. You develop a curiosity and a wisdom to nourish yourself with more of that balance of things. So the sun and the moon together. I was, again, going, moon, mother. I didn't know any of this stuff and how important it was. Even as a farm girl, we depended on, like royalty, you depend on the seasons, but I hadn't ever connected what the planets were doing with how we managed our farm, for example. So it's not airy-fairy, it's what royalty used. And I think, again, it's like this cosmopolitan, contemporary, like it's how you find your lucky 8-ball or your wheel of fortune numbers or something. But there's so much more to it than that. That when we understand how powerful it is, we can really leverage our consciousness about using this tool. And so I wanted to really express or show all of the features of the moon and the ascendant sign as well, because your ascendant really has a lot to do with how you show up in the world and in life. So can you just talk into that more, Krasi?
Ascendant, of course. Ascendant is the rising sign. This is this sign which influences you the most at the moment of your birth, because it rises with you at the moment of your birth. The sign which rises on the eastern horizon, this is what you are, because the first house ruled by, connected with the ascendant, this is the house of life. So in the traditional astrology, they just call it the house of life. This is you. These are your first moments. This describes just everything. This describes how you look. This describes your emotions, your health, your overall health. This describes your even your profession, the way you think, the way you do, just everything. You can speak only by the degree of the rising sign of the ascendant, the degree, because on every degree out of these 360 degrees of the zodiac, we have a star, constellations which are projecting their influences. So this 1 degree which is influencing you at the moment of your birth is like describing your life, your body, your mind, your soul, everything. So this is the house of life. This is the ascendant. So you have the house of life, the ascendant, you have the moon, and you have the sun as the holy trio. And here comes something very interesting, and this is the lot of fortune. The lot of fortune is derived from the sun and the moon. That's why both are important. But you cannot say we are this sun sign, because you need to start with moon, ascendant, or ascendant, moon, and sun. What is the lot of fortune? The lot of fortune is this lot or point of the ancient astrology, which is derived from the position of the sun and the moon in such a way that wherever this point falls in your horoscope, it describes again you, yourself, your body, overall body condition, and the way you will make money, the way you'll be earning your finances in your entire life. So you see, all are very important.
It's so interesting. Can you share a couple of examples of the physical features of people who are certain ascendant signs? Like, what would be some physical features of, say, a Libra rising?
Libra. Okay, Libra. Well, I want to use something more. I will tell you about Libra, but something more evident, like something that everyone would immediately recognize.
Okay, yes, please.
Let's say the lion, Leo, because
Leo.
everyone knows easily. We know how the lion looks like, right? Lion. Every degree of the ascendant lion would have a detail which will add up to the characteristics of the person who is ruled by the lion, right? And it would matter where the ruler of the lion, which is the sun, is positioned in the horoscope. Okay, but these are details, of course. But let's say simply the lion, the animal lion. Typically, these people will resemble the lion. They will have, let's say, round, very, very light skins and faces. They would have light and bright eyes. They would have a lot of hair. Obviously, the lion. Typically, these people always, without exception, would have that much hair that you'll be able to recognize them. Like, I would know already from experience, oh, she or he has ascendant Leo, because this hair, often they will be attracted by orange or red, or they will, if they're not originally with light hairs, they would paint them because this would be what their soul is attracted to. So this is, every degree adds detail. You would have degrees which say, oh, this person will be short or long, or will have problems with weight gain or not. This already comes from the degrees, but this is a very evident example which I am giving you. With the Libra people, I have to check in better detail the degrees, but Libra is a sign which, of course, is not ruled. First, you have distinction. In the ancient astrology, you have animal signs, you have human signs, you have many layers of distinctions. They call some even many layers. But Libra is not an animal sign, and as such, it will be a very of course, such people, only by knowing the Libra, would look very balanced, and it is intellectual sign because it is not animal sign. It is very intellectual, and you would see and you recognize these people to be very intellectual and balanced. And since also Saturn is joyful, exalting there, you would see them Saturnine, organized, and you would see them also attracted by the Venus features. You will recognize Venus in them. You should be able to recognize Venus in these people. Most of them, because of the degrees in Libra, you have there one very important constellation. This is the Northern Crown. Most of these people are visible with what they do, or they are very handy, very gifted. Some of them would be attracted to Saturnine matters like exact knowledge. They would be financists or simply good, exact, and organized. You should be able to recognize Venus to a degree Saturn, and they would be intellectual.
Awesome. Let's do one more for fun. How about Taurus?
Taurus?
Which is not me. They're not me, but I'm just kidding. It's like Taurus. So again, the degree Leah. Powerful sign is Taurus because this axis Taurus, Scorpio, have royal stars. This is the celestial bull, the great bull of Babylon, with the Taurus people. Depends in which part, but maybe let's say if they fall under the first 15 degrees of Taurus, they love life. They enjoy life. They look Venus-like. They're sweet. They're attractive people. Of course, it would depend when Venus is placed, but people will be very attracted naturally. They would be sweet and attractive. They love life. They love food. But this is already known also from the modern astrology. Because of if they have these first 15 degrees, they may be a bit arrogant. They would feel that they rule the world, They would be, you see this in their expression. But most of them are charming and very attractive, and they love enormously life
life. And depending on the position of the moon, some can have weight problems, let's say.
Right.
And yes.
So much fun. So much fun. I love the words that you use too. It's like people are sweet, or they're delicate, or it's nice, or, good, or they could be a little bit arrogant, but it's all this really pleasant, vocabulary that's used to describe people. How often does a person's ascendant sign change within the span of a day? How many ascendant signs are they all? Because I think it's like people go, well, if I in general know my birth time in general, is it going to give me my proper ascendant sign?
You have many different cycles, so many, but let's take, for example, also when you talk about these degrees, before I answer this, when you describe ascendant of somebody, let's say Taurus, the degrees would show whether the hair is dark, whether the person would have light skin, what could be, these are details which are very interesting. This is one thing. But then there are many cycles. For example, because the celestial sphere is not the zodiac. The celestial sphere moves on the opposite direction, opposite of the zodiacal sign. Here you have one particular movement. Then you have the decanates. These are rulers of time. Every 45 minutes, different ruler of time we have. This is different decanates. Like you have the celestial spheres, which show the hierarchy of the planets. You have the sun. And then you have the order of the planets. You have the moon, you have Mercury, Venus, you have the sun, you have Mars, you have Jupiter, Saturn. You have then the zodiacal constellations and stars. Above them, you have these decanates, which are very high hierarchy deities, which actually are something like they're rulers of time. 45 minutes with the celestial sphere, they rule the time. They all have names. And above them is everything or nothing. It's the absolute. It is the creator. They're like guardians of the creator. It's just everything. So this is one way of looking at rulership of time. Then what other way? There are many ways. Also, you have the rulership by so-called perfections, when every year of your life is ruled by certain sign. When you are born, the first year of your life is ruled by your ascendant, from 0 to 1. Then from 1 to 2, you're ruled by your second house, and so on. And then they repeat it forever until you reach 100. Then
almost there. Just kidding. This is huge insight, Krasi, honestly, because it's very important insight for people in terms of life management, because what we expect when you've got this, it's a chart, so when you've got the chart and you sort of know what you can expect to be able to support you, or that you need to be working through, that's a huge help. It's like actually having a roadmap to say from here to Bulgaria, from Edmonton, Alberta to Bulgaria. Somebody has given us a roadmap, and we're going to have the roadmap. And along the way, we know we're going to run up against things because there's construction, or there's cities, or there's whatever, but we know what's coming. If you just I said, Krasi, I'm going to come visit you in Bulgaria. See you soon. Like without a map, it's hard. It's a lot harder. I would find you though, because I like you that much. And so but having the map is so much better. I want to talk a little bit more about this, why the ascendant sign is so important, because I thought I was a Pisces. So I'm just going to keep going back to that as my frame of reference, because so it's like if you look up Pisces and you go, okay, these are all the things that I would expect would be showing up in my life, or how I might behave, or the attributes I would have. And hardly any of them were accurate. And so it was very distressing to try to be a Pisces. And, when trying to be a Pisces. That sounds funny, but it's like, I'm not thin and I'm not like waif-like. I'm like none of those things. I'm not. So I'm just like, oh my Lord. So when I actually found out what I was, I went, oh, well, that makes much more sense. But the other thing is that it's very different depending between whether you look at Western astrology or ancient astrology, what you're even looking at in terms of the chart. So when I'm in Western astrology, my ascendant is different and it's not right because I can tell by the description of that ascendant and what I am when I look at the ancient astrology or by the Vedic birth chart. So do you want to just talk a little bit about the difference between why somebody might want to go with the ancient astrology or Vedic birth chart versus the Western birth chart?
I'll try to answer briefly because we might need another 3 hours for this, but okay. Look,
just to begin.
yeah, because this is a very interesting topic, and well, look, the sidereal means starry. It means that the astrology is astronomical. It applies the stars and the constellation. This is simply sidereal. Mm-hmm. Sidereal is astronomical. It means literally you're born at this very moment when on the eastern horizon, the 5th degrees of Libra is rising. Astronomical, this is on the sky, this is in your horoscope, with all the stars applying to this degree. And so this is that simple. Why people want to make it more complicated, I will tell you in a moment. Yeah. One of the reasons is people not to make use of astrology, because astrology is of great help, as you said. Yes. That's why. Mm-hmm. But what happened? Let's go back to 5,000 years ago. Well, the Babylonians used this sidereal method, simply sidereal, observational. Very simply, they would watch the sky, observe. They had their astronomical diaries. We have these diaries now, some of them translated. We do have from cuneiform, from Akkadian and Sumerian. We do have them. The thing is, they also had something which was called the tropical lunar ecliptic. It's a calendar. It was calendar. What they would do, they would apply, they would have the zodiac as you imagine it now, but it would be 12 sections as on the zodiac, equal 12 sections. And in the middle of 4 of them, as a cross, they would put the points of the equinoxes and the solstices. So they would split in 2. It means 30 degrees each, but these points, which form a cross of the vernal spring solstice and autumn solstice, spring equinox, autumn equinox, winter solstice, summer solstice, these points were divided into 2 in the middle. And then each of the sections of the 12 sections, which you now know to be the contemporary zodiac, they would put the names of the months. And this way, they would observe the sky and they would apply to their calendar and they would be able to predict. They would be applying the ominous phenomena that they would see with their observations. But this was the tropical ecliptic of the Babylonians. So look what happened. This is 7,000 years old. Mm-hmm. This is hermetic. What is happening? Somewhere around 0 year, it would be 1st century, Ptolemy, he was a great, beautiful astronomer, no doubt. He took this tropical calendar, the lunar calendar, it's lunar calendar. They would use it to observe and register the eclipses, and then they would look at the results and predict the results from the eclipses. But what is happening? Ptolemy took this same calendar and simply replaced the names of the calendar, the lunar months, with the zodiacal constellations. Okay, no problem. But when he did that, we had the vernal equinox in 0 degree Aries Remember, 0° Aries. And what happened further? He would make this zodiacal circle, a zodiacal calendar. He would quote it he would use it in his tetrabiblos, in his books. Very good. But this was still sidereal, because when he did it in the zero, when the equinox was in the 0° Aries, which is not now. Now is in the 4° Pisces. What happened? The contemporary astrologers copied and pasted this forever. Copy, paste, and they never applied this change, which is actually happening with the changes, because the equinoxes change slowly, but they change. From that time of Ptolemy, the contemporary astrology still applies this very same moment of 0° Aries without changing. And we have amazing researchers who worked on that. One of them is Cyril Fagan and others who wrote on this. And it's been ignored because the dark side doesn't want this light to come to us, that actually there is nothing wrong with the tropical zodiac unless they move the points of the equinoxes with the time they changed, because the zodiac is alive, the cosmos is alive, the universe is alive. Why to keep the zodiac as it was 2,500 years ago? Tell me.
To keep people in the dark. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yes, welcome to Master Your Life, the show of insight, intelligence, and inspiration, where we invite you to actually look up at the sky and see what's really going on there. And it's like we're laughing about it. I think it's important to make light a little bit of how much we've been infiltrated, and that when you hear the truth, you just go, oh, of course, that makes total sense. So then that's why the zodiac or your horoscope might have felt just a little off. Where I hear that people will say, it just feels like a little bit off. It isn't quite resonating with me. And when I did went to astro.com, for those of you who actually want to do this, you can go to my website, masteryourlife.ca, and look for Krasi's page on there. And we have the formula there for you to be able to actually do this quite easily. And you can get your own birth chart, and then you can follow along from this different perspective. It's the beginning, I've said this on a podcast or two, this last year in particular. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And when you are so far off course already, you need to it's like backing up and going, okay, how do we actually get a restart from a fresh slate? And this birth chart is one way of doing that. And it's really honoring your own individual, beautiful arrival on the planet here. Your own. It's like you're like a snowflake. No one else was born at the same time as you, in the same place, in the same moment. So you are like this snowflake. You're finding your fingerprint. It's another tool to do that, where you see your divinity, and that from that perspective, you can really look at your chart through the eyes of reveling in yourself, where it's not cookie cutter, it's not contemporary, it is divine. And that's a very different thing. So thank you, Krasi, for helping me to figure my way out of that stuff. So let's talk now about why this, the sun's important, but let's talk about the moon, and why is the moon so important in people's, in astrology and in their charts?
The moon is very fast. The moon is like a lens. The moon takes, let's say the moon makes conjunction with Venus, then she takes like a lens, this energy, and just moves it. And the moon has amazing role. The moon is, there is no activity, there is no life, there is no, even the flowers and the trees wouldn't grow without the moon. Nothing can exist without the moon, because the moon rules the tidal waves, and with this she rules the agriculture, as you just said. The moon is everything. We cannot come on Earth with the moon and without the moon. We cannot even leave this world without the moon.
Let's talk really about this whole title thing. This has come up as a theme a ton this month, and I'm sure it's because of all the super moons and the moons of this and that. But what would be the consequence if the moon actually turned the other direction? Like, what would happen to, because it doesn't actually rotate.
No, but let's say, what is the moon doing when in the horoscopes the moon has no course? Void, of course. Everything you see, you have moon which is in 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 or in a 𝑸��𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆. It is when the moon is very near. Then these people are very lunar. You would see them very emotional. They would shift emotions. They would be maybe. Then when the moon is very near, when the moon is far, these people are more in control of their emotions. This is 𝑸�𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 of the moon. But you have also situation in the horoscope. This is maybe will lead us now thinking together what would happen if the moon is moving backwards. Even there was one astrologer, in one forum was saying that the moon can be retrograde, and I found it very funny. Retrograde moon. But
please not in my chart. I've got enough going on in there.
I will put one air in your chart on your moon to make sure that your moon is retrograde, Leah. So you see, so let's say a situation when the moon is void of course, which means the moon is not making the moon is in the last 3 degrees of a sign. And she doesn't have any aspects with any planets, no aspects. We call this moon that she doesn't have a course. It's like, imagine she has stopped, she's not moving. What is this giving to the horoscope? Such people cannot complete things. They cannot, like they would have some success, let's say, potentially, but it doesn't really happen. In the very last moment, it doesn't happen, or something will come up and they would have failure. This is a very, very difficult moon, very difficult. The moon which is void of course, no course moon. So you see, when the moon is not active, she's not helping you to accomplish what you want to accomplish, or then you usually would have problems with the mother figure. Moon void, of course, there will be something, because she, as you mentioned, rules the mother. You would have either not harmonious relationship, or there will be something. This is when she has no course. I don't want to imagine when she would be retrograde what's going to happen. I don't want to know.
No, I don't want to know either. So how many, I know this is probably a wild question, but how many days a year would the moon have no course in general?
No, this is something which is not astronomically valid. This is because the constellations, let's say, in the ancient zodiac, we use equal house system of 30 degrees each, which doesn't correspond to the length of the zodiacal constellation, see? Because you can have a Cancer which is very short, and still the Cancer sign is 30 degrees. What part of Leo is inside? The head of Leo is very much in the zodiacal sign of Cancer. And then you can have Leo which is very long, or others. So this is not astronomical phenomenon, this is zodiacal phenomenon. So I don't know. It is so that in the very last 3 degrees of the sign, if the moon is there and the moon doesn't make aspect to a degree, exact, to any other planets applying, then this moon is having no course. So I do not know. I haven't ever checked the statistics around that.
Right. Might be
but you see it often, Leah. You see it often.
Yeah. Yes. Because it might be interesting for people to be self-reflective and go, gee, am I somebody who has a lot of difficulty, with almost getting stuff done, and then it, just never comes to fruition, because could be something that you're up against in your own birth chart, in your own birth timing.
Yes, because when you do something about it. You apply willpower to complete things. So you know it, then part of the problem is solved. Like they say, I saw something and I was amazed. Like they said, oh, when you know your future, you have no future.
Oh, no.
It's like when you know it, you can eliminate it. I look this from the good perspective. You know, you know it, you have trouble. You wonder why I can't complete things. Why I for example, you would lose interest, let's say, in something that you started, and you say, "Oh, I'm bored. I don't want to. This is this moon." But when you know it, and when you know that potentially you are missing a chance, then you apply willpower. You work on that. You connect with the lunar god if you want. You look at the moon. You connect. You get more lunar energy into your life. Moon thing, and then you will be able to help yourself. But this is again with knowledge. That's the thing. You need to know.
Yeah, beautifully put. I think that that when you know that you're up against it, you have this outer standing. You understand what's going on with the planets, and that's outside of you. And then the inner scape that you're fixing or working on is that conscious change where you go, this might be actually what has been forecast for me, but it's just a forecast and I can change that by doing this inner work. But until you sort of understand the why that's happening to you, you might think that you actually have something fundamentally flawed with you personally. And it can create a lot of tension in your life, a lot of self-esteem issues, a lot of tragedy that you could avoid, and that your children could avoid also, because you'd have this different level of self-understanding and self-acceptance too, where you go, oh, wow, like I didn't know that I had all this Mars-Saturn conjunction blowing up my relationships. Well, that explains why I have abusive whatever in my life, or Martian children. But when you understand your difficulties, then you become conscious of it. You don't just throw your hands up in the air and go, oh, well, whatever, c'est la vie. I guess that the die is cast and I now must live this way. The fates are not the fates. And I think that's something that's been misunderstood, or that you've had a change of opinion about over the last couple of years, Krasi, is just how much control do we have over our destiny? What's your thoughts on that now?
Yes, that's the thing. See, I would think before that your horoscope is something like your passport, describes your life and there is nothing you can do. But I understood, maybe because this so-called great awakening gave me this gift in a way that this knowledge, so to say, to understand that actually this awakening is what about? It is about finding who we are. And when finding who we really are, we also necessarily will find out that we are so divine and so powerful that when we vibrate high, which means above levels of fears, worries, anxieties, anger, name it, when we vibrate higher than that, we become so strong and capable of changing events, because we create with words, we create with thoughts, we are creators. That's why the Matrix is so afraid of us, because we are very powerful, and we start to understand this. We are understanding this already. So this is how I changed my mind, because I saw that when we change our levels, our vibrational levels, the levels of our enlightenment and consciousness, then we already can change things simply by intention, powerful talk, powerful thoughts, but of course this is not easy, because we can also we can very easily fall in these frames of the low vibrations, because we're being projected by the television. We're being
programmed.
Programmed. Yes, and it is also, it's not very easy to stay high, but we have to try. And when we are high, we are connected with the universe, with the creator, and we can change. But you need the knowledge first. You need to know what you need to change.
Yes. So let's go back to that for a moment for people who don't have their birth time, because I think this is an incredible thing as well. As some people will not have their birth time. They'll have the wrong birth time. They won't be able to get access to their birth time. What are ways that you can help people to actually get on track?
This is something called rectification. It is quite accurate. This is technique to find out people's birth time or to adjust the birth time if they know it approximately or if it's wrong. So this is a rectification. For this, the most workable and appropriate technique is, again, ancient technique. It's called primary directions, for which technique you use the movement of the celestial sphere and not the zodiac. So it's pretty much influential in terms of events. Then you go back and you look at past events of people's lives. Based on these past events, when you find them, it's like a puzzle. You should be able to adjust the time of birth. This is one thing which is very, this is the only way. Rectification, finding out the real time of birth. It is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fundamental to getting the chart right, really. So if, again, it's coming back to the, I've taught a lot of really exceptionally gifted athletes and business leaders. And one of the things we always say is the foundation of what you're building on, if it's strong, then everything else will work itself out. And this is the same in my mind, and my thoughts and my beliefs is really, if you have the foundation of your birth time and where you were born, also makes an incredible difference to what that birth chart looks like. So it's a really important investment in your life to actually invest in understanding just where were you, and this divine moment belongs to no other on the planet. And so it's very much your personal print that you were sent here. You chose to come here at that exact time, in that exact circumstances, at that exact moment. And that the reason you chose that is because you were signing up for this life that you are living right now. So if you're having some dissatisfaction, challenges, you think that you could have more joy in life if you understood more about yourself, this is a really fundamental tool to having this birth chart thing. Yeah, it's very, very incredibly powerful. So Krasi, we're down to the last minute. What's a last message that you would like to share with people?
What would be my last message? Well, it is a cliche maybe, but knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, indeed. I'm not talking only about astrology, but in general, now you see people are awakening to the true knowledge. This is why we become more powerful, because we're starting to know. We are not denied access to true knowledge. That this is so beautiful for the moment, for this so-called awakening. But, astrology, the ancient astrology, is part of this awakening, knowing the true knowledge, because the contemporary science is also a bit not to trust it completely. And astrology is the first science of humanity given to us from 𝑸𝒖𝒗𝒻𝑎 Trismegistus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hermes. Thanks, Krasi.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, so much for joining us on this episode of Master Your Life. If you'd like to see more of Krasi's work, get in touch with her for birth rectification, natal charts, and other readings. Please find her on the masteryourlife.ca website. Krasi, thank you so much again for being my wonderful, divine, inspiring guest.
Pleasure, great pleasure. I thank you very much, Leah. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Wonderful. Everyone, love yourselves, love each other, mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.